Dubai property prices surged 60% between 2022 and 2025, and then they corrected. UK property, on the other hand, has grown steadily, absorbed economic shocks, and never had a negative period over a 10-year time frame. Both the markets I've personally bought in for different reasons, but it's one of the questions I get asked most often. Which one should I buy in? So today I thought I would give you the honest answer based on my experience and my take on it, having bought in both of those locations, to hopefully give you the information that you need to make a decision, or help you make a decision based on your own personal set of circumstances, not everyone else's. Firstly, the UK case. We'll start with the structural argument, things like supply and demand. The UK has 446 homes per 1,000 people in the UK. That is the second lowest in Europe. France has 560, Germany has 516, I think, with the European average being just below 550 per 1,000 people. So this is not a short-term problem, it's a structural issue that has been getting worse and taken hold over decades. We're still not building anywhere near enough homes, as per the government's targets, to be meeting this demand for housing. The government delivered 340,000 homes in its first 2 years of its 1.5 million new homes target, and housing starts fell 9% in Q1 of this year. Now, you can't fix a structural supply problem with political announcements or changes in policy. You need real tangible things to come into play. And the rental market reflects this. Rents grew 9.2% in the last 12 months, with wage growth just over 5%. So the gap is widening. Second point for the UK that I would say is in favour of the UK is the leverage argument, or the mortgage argument, or the accessibility of finance argument. For example, a £200,000 property with a 25% deposit means you are deploying £50,000. Yes, not taking into account costs for this moment, just keeping it very simple. With a 6% gross yield, i.e. rental income of £12,000 per annum, you get a real return on your capital of 24%. For £12,000, you put down 50, 24%. If you look at Savills forecast, I don't think it's the most recent one, it's the one from the month before. It says 22% growth in the UK over the next 5 years. 22% on your 200,000 would be 44,000 odd, 45, maybe 50. But on your capital deployed of 50,000, it's almost 100% return on that amount of money you've put down. And this is one of the points I think people overlook about UK property, is the power of leverage, that you can control a much larger asset base with a smaller amount of cash. And you can't do this in many other countries. You can in Dubai, or the United Arab Emirates, I should say, but it's a bit more restricted. What are the risks of the UK then? The real things we are seeing. Higher mortgage rates since 2022, although they're falling. You've got political regulatory changes, say the Renters Reform Act, increasing tax burden if you own in your own personal name, not necessarily in the company structure, which is why 66,000 buy-to-let companies were set up in the UK last year, because it's the most tax efficient way to do it. But in my opinion, none of these risks are actually fundamental to the market. They're not going to change the supply, the basics that make the market successful. They're short-term changes that you've got to adapt to, like now buying new properties via a company structure, not in your personal name. They're things that change a market and don't kill it, don't wipe it out. So those are three things to consider. The structural supply and demand, you've got the ability to leverage, and then you've got the political situation or the exogenous risks to the market. We'll do the same for Dubai. We'll look at three different data points then. If we talk about PI, population, infrastructure, employment, then Dubai's population has grown from roughly 3 million in 2015 to 4 million today, so a 25% increase in 10 years. Tax incentives, low tax, no tax, visa liberation, the golden visa rule, the new 10-year golden visa, has brought an influx of people wanting to live in Dubai for setting up businesses, running businesses, for these tax reasons, for these visa reasons. So they've genuinely created a supply of high net worth and well-to-do, wealthy individuals coming into the city. And the result of that has been 60% growth in property prices from 2022 to 2025, or the start of 2026. And in a tax-free environment, no capital gains tax, no income tax, no inheritance tax, the net yields are much better on paper than most comparable markets. What's another factor to consider in Dubai then? I believe because it is a less mature or a maturing market, you get these fluctuations in price that are a bit more aggressive. So since the start of the year, for example, we've seen a 20 to 30% correction in some areas and types of the market, which I think is pretty consistent when you have a market that is becoming more mature. It's bedding down its framework. It's getting a consistent supply of people coming in and buyers. It's becoming known as a stable market as opposed to a market where you can make money quickly. But that's something you need to consider. Supply and demand, what does that look like then? We've got 65,000 new apartments in the pipeline for Dubai. That is a lot of supply coming into the market in one city, which is creating real supply pressure in parts of the market, especially the mid-level. It's not the same across the board. The more mature markets, Dubai Marina, downtown Business Bay, JVC, for example, have better demand and liquidity than some of the more speculative areas because they are more mature, more established. So the pipeline supply risk is real, but it's more localized. So know your markets. A comparison then, which is the best? That's subjective based on your situation. And I'll use a little analogy here to show and try and explain what I mean by based on your situation. So you might be able to see it on the shelf behind me there. I recently read the Red Hot Chili Peppers book. No, it was the lead singer's book, Scar Tissue it was called. And one of the key things I took away from it was how all the four personalities of the band were so different. The singer, Kaidis, was chaotic, creative. You had Flea, who is the bassist and was a real sort of family man, wife and kid at a young age when the others weren't having that. You got Chad, the drummer, it was a job for him. He would turn up. He didn't get very friendly with the guys. He was there to do a job and fill his role. And then you had the guitarist, Fusciante, I think, who was and is a real creative, like a real artist and really obsessive about the purity of his craft. So on the surface, you think that shouldn't really work. Four totally different people, all pulling in different directions, but together they made it work based on their situation and circumstances. And I think, I know I'm grasping a bit here, but property is the same. Anyone and everyone can make it work, but it needs to be built around your specific situation. You can't take someone else's life goals and ambitions and situation, overlay it on yours and expect it to work. So what are the questions to ask yourself then to know what route to go down and which route Dubai or the UK is better for you? What is your current situation? In my opinion, if you have no property anywhere, it's probably better to start buying in the UK and create a solid, stable, boring base of property that you can fall back on and that you know is not going to correct 30% at the wrong time and do damage financially. What is your risk tolerance? You should be asking yourself that. Are you happy seeing a large swing in prices in the short term, an exogenous effect causing that to happen? If you are, then maybe Dubai is a good market to consider. If you're not, then don't look at it. What's your time horizon? Always a crucial question to ask. If you are looking really aggressively for short-term growth, then have a look at Dubai because that's where you're going to get it. Or are you taking a more long-term view and you want something a bit more stable? Then I would say the UK is the place for that stability. And lastly, what are you trying to get out of it? Is it an income play now? Is it income for the future? Is it growth now? Growth for the future? Is it maximizing your money and therefore needing to use as much leverage or a mortgage as possible? For me, the way I break it down and what's worked for me over the years is using the 3-layer framework, as I would call it. So you've got layer 1, which is your boring base. I call it building a base. It's stable, steady. If everything else in layers 2 and 3 go wrong, you've got this layer 1 you can fall back on. And for me, that is the UK. Houses, flats, city centre locations, nice and boring. Yes, you may have changes to interest rates, changes to government, changes to policy, but structurally, it's not going to change. Layer 2 then for me is more adventurous, higher risk locations, and I would class within that locations that I personally don't know much about because I haven't studied them enough or my knowledge is not that great. So I would take a smaller punt with a smaller part of my portfolio on those locations. And for me, that's places like Dubai. It's buying in Thailand. It's buying in Indonesia. It's different parts that are higher risk, have got different rules and regulations for foreigners, are not yet as mature, but could become really solid locations. And then the third layer for me on top of all of that, so I've got my base long term, I've got some slightly more adventurous stuff, which again is pure investment. Then on top of that is the lifestyle blend, things that I think could do well from an investment perspective, but also help me build my life plan. Dubai is part of that, 10-year visa, for example. For you, that might be buying in the Caribbean to get residency or a second passport. So that's my third layer. Once my financial future is taken care of, then I look at the slightly more fun personal heart stuff. Next stage in this video before we wrap up then is a practical buying guide or a brief overview on buying in each of those locations. If you'd like more information, you can hit the link below. I've got a Dubai versus UK buying guide that you can download. Comes through in an email chain over 3 or 4 days, I think. You can go through it, ask me any questions, reply to the email if it's not clear. The UK then, if you're buying as an expat and you're building a portfolio, if it's for investment, then buy through a UK limited company. Goes without saying nowadays. If you're only buying one and you're going to remain an expat, then do it in your personal name. If you want to know why, then drop a comment below. I can send you another video. Target areas where there is strong pie, population, infrastructure, and employment. We've done that in another video. If you've got those 3 things, the chances are the location is going to do well. Don't buy in a location that you like personally because of your heart and you think will do well. Buy based on the data, and pie is a really easy framework. In addition to that, I would target a minimum yield of 5% plus. This means generally on a 25-30% loan to value, so 25 to 30% as a deposit. The income will be covering your running costs even with interest rates as they are now. So it's cash flow neutral or cash flow positive. 4th point then would be to work with a specialist expat mortgage broker. These guys are worth their weight in gold. They don't charge a huge amount of money. Having a conversation is free. Getting a decision in principle is free, but they know which lenders will like to work with you based on your situation. Dubai then, practical buying guide, again, based on my experience and knowledge of the market. If you're buying off plan, which I think is not a bad way to go in Dubai, make sure you're buying with a reputable developer or builder with a solid track record. That is a way to mitigate risk in a newer market, is doing it with someone that has been there a long time. It also means you can stagger your cash flow, so you're not getting in and having to pay a huge chunk. You can drip feed it in. Stick to established communities for more liquidity. If you need to resell it, then those established communities will allow you to do that quicker. So again, it's just balancing the risk a bit, which for me is important. And then give yourself a brief understanding of the legal process and the purchase. So the DLD, Dubai Land Department tax, what does that look like? When do you need to pay that? Who's going to rent it for you? It's the same when you're buying in the UK, but give yourself a good understanding and don't just jump in. Open your eyes and do some research first. Final answer then, the moment you've all been waiting for, Dubai or the UK, which is right for you? In my opinion, both. Yep, both. First, the UK, build your base, get something solid there. If you're not from the UK, if you're from Australia, could be buying there and building a base there, but somewhere stable, long term. And then once you've got that, go into these secondary locations such as Dubai. So if you're just starting out, look for something boring, long-term, not sexy. If you're a bit more experienced, you've already got a portfolio and you're looking for something more, then I would say go and buy in Dubai. But most importantly, buy based on your goals. What do your goals tell you? That will give you, if you have really clear goals, it will give you a really clear guideline as to where and what to buy. I've bought in both markets myself, Dubai and the UK. If you'd like my breakdown on buying in those locations, a bit of a comparison guide, how to, drop your email in the link below and I'll put you into an email chain over 3, 4, maybe 5 days that will send you some more information on it. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a comment, like it. If you didn't like it, don't leave a comment, don't dislike it. Please subscribe. Thanks. See you next week.